Who is Moon Knight? Well, with his Disney Plus show upon us, I figured it was time to break down who the Fist of Khonshu really is. As a young boy, Marc Spector's father, the Rabbi Elias, was persecuted by their close family friend and fellow rabbi, Yitz Perlman, who was in reality a Nazi deserter and secretly a serial killer of Jews. One day, Perlman went after Marc, which is where the child developed his fighting spirit, but also his dissociative identity disorder because of the trauma he endured, with his first two alternate personalities being the future billionaire Stephen Grant and taxi driver Jake Lockley. Following his father's death, Marc became a boxer and later a Marine, but due to his past he was dishonorably discharged from the military. Marc would later come to work with the CIA alongside his brother Randall, but disgusted by the organization's practices and hurt by his brother's betrayal when Randall murdered Marc's girlfriend Lisa with a hatchet to keep her from exposing a gun-running scheme, Marc ejected whatever morals he still possessed, seemingly killed his brother, and fell into mercenary work around the globe. It was then that he met his best friend Jean-Paul Frenchy Duchamp, a fellow mercenary. Later, tired of overthrowing governments and assassinations, Spector met a man named Raoul Bushman who planned to steal some newly found priceless Egyptian gold. However, when Bushman killed the lead archaeologist on the expedition, a woman named Marlene's father, Spector got into a fight with Bushman which almost ended his life. Leaving Marc for dead, Bushman killed everyone except for Marlene, Frenchy, and a villager willing of telling him the secrets of the tomb they were exploring. On the brink of death, Marc dragged himself to the pyramid where he was found by Marlene and Frenchy, who placed him under an idol of the moon god Khonshu. His spirit had an encounter with Khonshu, who promised to save his life in exchange for his service. Spector agreed, although he later considered this encounter a hallucination. Restored to life, he punished Bushman's men, but Bushman himself escaped. Having finally found a purpose in life, Spector applied himself fully. He moved to New York with Frenchy and Marlene, now his lover, and developed the costume, equipment, and persona of Moon Knight, increasing his fortune from being a professional boxer and his earnings as a mercenary by investing in businesses. In addition, to support his new career of fighting crime, he began using a Stephen Grant persona as a financier and Jake Lockley as a cab driver whose purpose was to gather information at street level, with his original persona and its multiple facets fading into the background. While it's hard to know how much of Moon Knight's story the show will adapt in its 6 episodes, I think it's pretty safe to say that we'll at least get quite a bit, if not most of this in Season 1. Marc's first major job as Moon Knight came when the Committee, a secret organization of anonymous businessmen and financiers, hired him to capture a werewolf named Jack Russell. However, once he learned that the Committee planned to turn Russell's sister Lisa into another werewolf and use them both as weapons, he did the honorable thing and switched sides. Then Spector and Russell shut down the Committee. However, that didn't stop Lisa, who had the same curse as Jack, from also becoming a werewolf and later on were-demon. Something that's really interesting though is that Marvel is currently working on a Werewolf by Night Halloween special with Gael Garcia Bernal set to play Werewolf by Night, and with characters like Nina Price, aka Vampire by Night, Russell's niece, and Dracula rumored to appear. Following this battle with Werewolf by Night and the Committee, Moon Knight would go on to join teams like the Defenders, the Midnight Suns, and the Avengers, and take on villains like Shadow Knight, his brother Randall Spector who didn't die and had similar abilities to him, Black Spector, a villain who would kill Moon Knight's victims and carve a crescent moon in their foreheads, and Sun King, an inmate at Ravencroft Institute known as Patient 86 with a bipolar disorder, and one of the villains who, like Spector, is a manifestation of a god, only this one was Khonshu's father, the sun god Amun-Ra. Shadow Knight and Black Spector are villains who, while we're probably unlikely to see in Moon Knight Season 1, are some of his best and most interesting villains. Sun King, on the other hand, is probably the character that's most likely to appear, since apart from Dracula, he's the other option most people have been casting Ethan Hawke as. However, according to The Hollywood Reporter, Ethan Hawke is in fact playing a very obscure character called Arthur Harrow, a scientist continuing the work of Nazis who sought to make the human body invulnerable to pain, a means to conquer his own chronic suffering, and also only ever appeared in one issue, Moon Knight the Fist of Khonshu #2. Following this reveal, it's been rumored that like Sylvie and Loki, Ethan Hawke's character could be an amalgamation of sorts, combining aspects of Sun King as well. But Harrow's description actually reminds me more of a character who's getting his own solo movie soon over on Sony's side, Mr. Michael Morbius, who also experimented on himself because of a chronic illness. And the fact that he has a bipolar disorder could explain his cult following. One side is an introverted scientist, and the other a leader and a villain who worships Ra. But even more so, should Harrow or Sun King have anything to do with Morbius, who is again also connected to Werewolf by Night, it could tie back into what I mentioned previously about how Moon Knight's first mission was to capture Jack Russell, the Werewolf by Night. But that actually also ties into one of the teams Moon Knight has been a part of, my second favorite team behind the Illuminati, the Midnight Suns. In the comics, the Midnight Suns was a group formed by ghostwriters Johnny Blaze and Danny Ketch, and consisted of characters like Doctor Strange, Morbius, Werewolf by Night, Hellstrom, Blade, Iron Fist, The Punisher, and Man-Thing. For as long as I can remember, it's been rumored that a Midnight Suns project was in development by Marvel Studios, but now that Moon Knight will be introduced, Werewolf by Night is getting his own special, Blade is getting a reboot, Sony will release their Morbius film, which is now also connected to the MCU through Venom and Spider-Man No Way Home, and Andrew Garfield possibly becoming the official Spider-Man for that universe, multiple versions of Ghost Rider rumored to appear in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and John Bernthal expressing interest in returning as the Punisher, which is now also more possible than ever seeing as Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio reprise their respective Netflix characters. It seems like Marvel could be setting up the team's introduction into the greater MCU through Moon Knight and venturing into a darker, horror-esque corner of the universe. But of course, this is just my speculation and things I would want to see in the MCU, so don't take it to heart. We do actually know of one villain who will appear in the show though, but we only found out through the tragic death of the actor playing him, Gaspard Ulliel. Ulliel is set to play Anton Mogart, aka Midnight Man. After stealing a rare Monet oil painting from the Ramadan Art Gallery, he was stopped by Moon Knight and fell into a river and was presumed to have drowned. In reality though, he was carried by the current to the mouth of a drainage viaduct. There, the waste in the sewer melted his face, leaving him deformed. After hiding in the sewers for 3 days, he returned to his home to find the police had taken all his stolen goods. Blaming Moon Knight for this and his deformity, he vowed vengeance. Driven insane, he began living in the sewers and started collecting trash instead of treasure. But he eventually met and began working with Bushmen, who lured Moon Knight into a flooding sewage chamber with Midnight Man in it. Moon Knight was able to chisel an escape route in the brick, and Midnight Man was once again washed down a river. Later, after learning that he was dying from cancer, he tracked down his illegitimate son Jeff Wild. Anton taught Jeff his trade secrets, but begged him not to become a criminal. And in the end, he tried to challenge Moon Knight one last time and apparently died as a result. After his death, Jeff took the alias Midnight and tried to become Moon Knight's sidekick, but instead ended up as a villain. Anyways, the villain ties in perfectly with the museum that Mark will work at, but it'll be interesting to see what Marvel was able to do with Mogart and what the plans are for his character following the actor's death. Anyways, thanks to the trailer, we were of course able to get more information about the show, like our first look at Khonshu, some sort of Egyptian dog monster who could have been a werewolf, or another notable god, Anubis. But the most important detail found was the hint at Doctor Doom through Von Doomstadt. In the comics, Castle Sabat, which would later be called Castle Doom, was located in Latveria's capital city Hassenstadt, which after Doctor Doom became the ruler of Latveria, he changed to be called Doomstadt. And while I find it quite hard to believe that Doom will make an appearance or play any major role in Moon Knight, it's at the very least laying the groundwork for Doom to be mentioned and set up as a bigger threat over the next few years and in other projects like Black Panther Wakanda Forever before he appears in the Fantastic Four. Realistically, Von Doomstadt could be the name of an archaeological group and connect to the museum Mark was seen at, or even the mercenary group he was a part of. Moon Knight is also a pretty damn good fighter. He might not make the top 10 hand-to-hand fighters in the Marvel Universe list, but he can hold his own against some of them. Even some like Daredevil and Iron Fist, who are consistently ranked in the top 5. With Shang-Chi the undoubted best fighter at one point saying that Moon Knight was quite skilled. The only problem and the main thing holding him back from being a real top fighter though is that he's literally psychotic. The man likes to get hit, stabbed, shot, and injured if it gives him the chance to turn the tables. So while Shang-Chi and Iron Fist will just fuck you up with pure skill and technique, Moon Knight will let you shoot and beat him half to death just to get your guard down and then rip your face off. It also depends on which personality is in control, as some have increased his speed and strength as well as his fighting skills. But his inconsistency as well as his unconventional fighting style is what keeps him from the top. Something that's really cool though is that there are only a handful of characters that Taskmaster either can't or won't copy. The main one being Deadpool because of how unpredictable his fighting style is, and another one is Moon Knight for the sole reason that he likes to take damage, and that's completely counterintuitive to most fighting styles, including Taskmaster's, as he'd just be copying the pain. And this is even more obvious when you learn the reason behind why his suit is white. People who are unfamiliar with Moon Knight and unaware about the major differences between the characters may see their similarities in appearance, the fact that they're both rich, and dress up to fight crime at night and compare him to Batman. But the truth is he's very different, and whereas Batman wears black more for stealth, Moon Knight wears white for the sole purpose that he wants his enemies to see him coming, and he wants them to fear his name. In the comics, Moon Knight has also at one point been one of the strongest characters in the Marvel Universe. During the Infinity War event, Adam Warlock's evil counterpart Magnus created evil versions of many Marvel characters, including one of Moon Knight, called Moonshade. In Marc Spector Moon Knight issue number 42, this version of Moon Knight could absorb other entities and started by absorbing Franklin Richards' evil twin. Moonshade then went on to absorb countless other Moon Knights throughout the Marvel Universe, ascending to the level of a multidimensional entity. However, this technically wasn't a feat awarded to Moon Knight since it was an evil version of him, not the main 616 version. But what is in my opinion his greatest feat took place over in Conan Serpent War issue number 4, where Khonshu gave Mark a sliver of his full power. And this is important because originally in 1976's Marvel Spotlight number 28, Moon Knight's powers grew based on the moon, with his power being the weakest with the new moon and the strongest with the full moon. However, by the 90s, this ability was downplayed considerably to make the character more of a gritty, street-level superhero that relied on his own wits and training to save the day. Charlie Houston and Miko Sweetin explained in 2007's Moon Knight number 9 volume 3 that Khonshu had since stripped him of his lunar-based powers after growing displeased with his performance and reluctance to commit more extreme violence in his name. but the fact that Khonshu gave Mark a sliver of his power meant he was once again strengthened by the moon. And later in Avengers The Age of Khonshu, thanks to the biggest supermoon in a million years, he was able to defeat Danny Rand in a 1v1 battle and take the power of the Iron Fist, steal Doctor Strange's magic, effectively making him the Sorcerer Supreme, steal the Hell Charger and essentially the Spirit of Vengeance, and due to some pretty bad writing, wield Mjolnir because it was made of moon rock. And then using the Eye of Agamotto, he crushed Thor with dozens of moons from across the universe. All this power would later allow Moon Knight to defeat and seemingly kill Mephisto. But later on, while trying to steal the power of the Star Brand, he's intercepted by an injured Black Panther who kicks this all-powerful version of Moon Knight's shit in. Like, it's not even funny. And because of the original Black Panther having been worthy of wielding Mjolnir a million years ago, T'Challa is now also able to control Mjolnir. Anyways, after beating Spector to a pulp, Mark gains the Phoenix Force. And I mean, this Moon Knight is insane. We'll never see anything like this in the MCU, but holy crap is it sick. Anyways, Moon Knight eventually uses the power of the Phoenix to defeat Khonshu, and in the end, after letting an enraged Thor win, he's finally defeated. But yeah, as you can see, Moon Knight has been crazy strong, and is in general just a really cool character, so hopefully they do him justice in the MCU, and we can enjoy him for years to come.